Thank you, Glenn. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Karen, and my sobriety date is February 7th, 1992. And this was never my plan. Thank God God had a better one than I did. So I want to thank Glenn for the meeting, for inviting me, and just for being so silly. And all the service he does in Alcoholics Anonymous. Silly is important. It really is. And Danny, happy birthday. 3 is just wow. That's when we know we're entirely ready. We know what we're getting into, and we stick it out. We stay. That's when it gets really good. So I'm so excited for you. So, um, goodness, I've heard some wonderful things in AA recently, and one in Al-Anon. I'm also a grateful member of Al-Anon family groups because when I need to talk about you guys, that's where I go. And so my sponsees drive me to Al-Anon. Anyway, one of the things I heard in Al-Anon was when we were saying the serenity prayer, one of the gals was saying, instead of God grant me the serenity, she said, God grants me the serenity. I love that. It's kind of like, it's already there. It's the acceptance, not just the request. And just that knowledge gives me huge hope and joy and all that good stuff. And the thing about the serenity prayer for me, I'm asking or accepting serenity before I get courage or wisdom or acceptance. Until you can't see the bottom of a boiling pot, until I can calm this down, until I can get any kind of just a modicum of peace, calmness, and serenity, that's when I've got a chance of finding all the other gifts that are laid out there for me. So, I got to remember it's got to start there. And then the other really cool thing I heard from Carol L., who is, in the service that she does, prodigious service in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have been sharing this with everybody, and I've just been saying someone in AA. I should really give you full credit, Carol, but after 3 times, it's yours anyway. So, and she said on a meeting, like we always like, and I say this to sponsees all the time. They're going into a meeting or going into a tough conversation, invite God in, open the door, let God go in first, invite God into your day. Carol said, what about instead of inviting God in, you invited yourself into God's day? Whoa, that just gave me a chip. Do you know how much bigger that is than my day? That no edges, limitless. Why would I want to invite myself into that versus inviting God into my day? I love that. The other thing I really love is, thank you, Carol, is instead of let go and let God, I kind of like let God and let go. It's easier for me. So I had a really dear friend in AA, and Sandy B, who died 3 years ago. And he actually died in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is exactly the way he would have wanted to go. And we didn't agree on everything, but he had a level of spirituality that I just could only aspire to. And he said, I don't know why we say let go and let God. Who else is going to take it? Well, I don't know about you, but I need to be reminded. I need to be reminded who's going to take it. So for some reason, if I say let God, then it's easier for me to let go. And of course, God's there. God's always there. And God's always going to take it. But there's something about just putting God first that is amazing. So just real quick, another thing that Sandy said, he said, of the 3 great virtues, and this is over dinner, and faith, hope, and love. If I have faith and love, then hope is just a distraction. What do I have to hope for if I have faith and love? And that was like, oh my, that is so deep. But something didn't sit right. There was something that just didn't quite, I just couldn't embrace it. And so I was talking to another friend, this Jesuit out in Oakland, who I've known for 30 years. And I was telling him, I was going, Tom, like, this is what Sandy said, and it makes sense, but there's something that just, I said, if I have faith and love, then hope is just a distraction. He said, well, he's right. If we were perfect, If we had perfect faith and perfect love, then hope would be a distraction. But we don't. We have human traits. And in days when faith and love is not perfect, some days that's hope is the only thing that gets me through. And that is so true. There are many days that hope is the only thing that gets me through. So, this has been a rough year. I'm not going to miss 2023 at all. I always have a big Super Bowl party because that was my last major drunk. And February 12th, big party, everybody coming over. And one of my great fears of getting sober was that I wouldn't like football anymore. Now I remember the scores and who played. So, and I bought a big cake and it said Super Bowl 31, boo, 0. And it was a great party. And a friend comes in from Arizona every year. And so it's the next day and I'm getting ready to go teach this course that I teach. And I'm all dressed. I wasn't running. My cleaners were here, so there may have been a little something slippery on the floor. But Linda, my friend from Arizona, sitting on the couch and said, Karen, I saw it happen and I can't tell you what happened. All of a sudden, I turned to walk back to the bedroom and my feet went out from under me. I'm airborne. I jammed into this cabinet in my living room. So I get to relive it every day. Thank you very much. I shattered my right shoulder. Not just broke, the ball off the humerus. The whole ball broke off. It was, and after months of therapy, months of excruciating, painful therapy, and of course, I'm right-handed, there may be permanent nerve damage. Okay? I still can't raise my right arm higher than basically my elbow. And this is not how I expected to spend my golden years. But you know what? My left hand has become my superpower. I still have 2 arms. I still have 2 legs. And between the 2 of them, I can, get 90% of the things done. And the other 10%, I ask for help. So that's been a real blessing, learning how to ask for help, which I was not good at. And I don't believe that everything, first of all, I don't believe God did it. God didn't do it. It was an accident. I slipped and fell. And I'm not one of those people who believes that everything has this huge lesson that I'm supposed to learn. Now, have I learned some things? Yeah, I'm really impatient. I'm really grouchy, and I can be really mean when I have no control. So, I've learned some things. Not pleasant, but, in fact, for a while, my mantra was, what the hell is wrong with people? One time, I got in this big, stretchy dress, and I've got a sling underneath it, and I look like I'm 18 months pregnant, and I've got a big purse in the other hand, and I've got to go in and get some X-rays before the surgery, and I'm standing there holding the door so the guy behind me can hold it so I can walk in. Instead, he just walked right in and left me there holding the door. And I didn't scream, but I kind of raised my voice a little bit. And to his back, I'm going, what the hell is wrong with people? That's not helpful. That is just not helpful on any level. And I have, of course, had to tell my sponsor, and of course, the whole waiting room cracked up. But it's like, this is not helpful, Karen, to you, your fellows, or to God. And when I said to my sponsor, my mantra, what the hell is wrong with people? She goes, nothing. It's how you're reacting to them that we need to work on. I hate when she's right all the time. Oh my gosh. I adore my sponsor. I absolutely adore my sponsor. So I've changed sponsors. Well, let me just get, so this whole shoulder thing, God didn't do it. I don't think it's some big lesson. Sometimes I think we just need to get through things so we can help another woman get through them. That's all. So this will definitely be something that, so a friend of mine from high school just having knee problems, and he's, well, I'll never be this. It's like, no, dude, you've got another leg. You've got 2, and 1 is perfect. So, we can get through this, and we can. There's nothing we can't get through together. Absolutely nothing. So just before, I've got a head that wants to kill me. It will always want to kill me. It will never be my friend. Just before my 30th anniversary, my head was saying, Karen, at 30, I think you're well. What? There is There's no well in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's no graduation. There's no, oh, and it talks about that, and I forget whose story it was. Fred, I think, where, after being retired he quit drinking for 20 years and he retired, and he thought, after all this time, and within 4 years, he was dead. No, there is no well in Alcoholics Anonymous. Our disease is doing push-ups. It's never, ever a good idea. Sniffing, smelling, no, none of that good stuff. But my head it's like, where did that come from? And at the time I was reading the big book with this gal up in Connecticut, and we were reading Jim's story. I love Jim's story. That's the guy who used to own the car dealership, who now works for the guy that owns his car dealership. And he had a little resentment, and it's a Tuesday. I always wonder what Jim did on Monday. But it's Tuesday, and he decided, I'm just going to leave and go out in the country and try and sell a car. And he ends up in this little tavern where, he had had some drinks before, but also good sandwiches. So Jim has a sandwich and a glass of milk. And to me, the most terrifying phrase in all of our literature, suddenly he had a thought. Oh, it's that thought that I think you're well. It's like, whew, that if you get a thought, call somebody. It's never coming from a good place. Just know that, okay? So Jim decided after he had a sandwich and a glass of milk that maybe a shot of whiskey in that glass of milk wouldn't hurt on a full stomach. This is the kind of lies my head will always tell me. Always. And then it talks about Jim because he just couldn't stay sober until he met us. And it talks about how Jim would do fine for a while, but he failed to expand his spiritual life. And that was like a bucket of cold water on my face. It was like, because I was doing all this stuff for other people, but I wasn't expanding my spiritual life. And I had to get busy. And, I'd had the same sponsor for 13 years, and she was wonderful, but we weren't growing. In fact, we were arguing about the traditions. I think the traditions are pretty clear. Anyway, and I found, I didn't even know what I was craving until I found it. And I hadn't been to a conference in years because my sponsor didn't go to conferences. And I found a sponsor who is just engaged in Alcoholics Anonymous, just feeds off of it. And I'm going to conferences again. I follow her around like a little puppy dog, and I love it. I'm just having the best time. And I didn't even know what I was missing until I found her. And she is a joy in my life. I feel so blessed. So, it's been a tough year, but a drink or a drug would not have fixed any of it or made it better. Ever. Ever. And I will not trade a moment's relief. And that's all it is, a moment's relief for a lifetime of recovery. Not today. Not today. Oh, golly. So, when I got here, well, first, I didn't get here. I was brought here in a police car. You knew what an alcoholic was when I got here, and the magic of this disease is it makes us so smart. I could make up my own facts. I could absolutely, and believe them to my toes and drive my life by them. Absolutely, positively. Because I like believing my own stories. I need to believe my own stories. Thank God that's not true today. But one of the absolute facts I knew was what an alcoholic was. And that was my dad. And toward the end of his drinking, he would sit at the kitchen table on a Sunday morning drinking water glasses of warm gin. To this day, the smell of gin, it's like you get that thing in your throat. Ugh. And see, I knew I wasn't an alcoholic because I used ice cubes. This is the kind of thinking that drove my life. I was arrested 5 times for alcohol and drugs. After my 3rd arrest, I remember saying, I cannot believe that people go their entire lives without ever seeing the inside of a jail. And here, a woman of my stature has been arrested 3 times. 2 more, and I still wasn't an alcoholic when I got here. That's the power of the denial, the depth of the denial that was killing me. And I didn't even know it. Didn't even know it. I 5 arrests. I just had bad luck with cops. That was a fact that defined my life. Just bad luck with cops. Spent my wedding night in jail. Not my fault. If he had just kept his mouth shut, we'd have been fine. But no, he's got to run his mouth, and we're arrested. I'm arrested for 3 felonies, 2 misdemeanors, a little drunk and disorderly. But it wasn't my fault. It was never my fault. Never my fault. And the beauty of, and I know today, the really successful active alcoholics are just good victims. Because if you're doing it to me, well, then it's not my fault, and I can't, and whack. And I just start making up facts about you and how terrible you are to me. Whew. And they're facts. They're belief. It's a belief system that is just irrefutable in my head. And I had no idea of all the gifts I've gotten in Alcoholics Anonymous, of all the gifts. I had no idea that accountability, knowing who the problem is synonymous with freedom. The relief and release from victimhood. What a gift. I had no idea. And I know today, if I'm not the problem, there's no solution. Because I can't change you. I can't fix you. I can't do anything to you. But with God's help, the steps, sponsorship, and service, I've got a chance of changing me. And I'll take that chance every day. Every day. Because again, I had been arrested 5 times, spent my wedding night in jail, still wasn't an alcoholic. It was never my fault. I used to joke about blackouts. I joke about how blackouts are so great because you save so much time in transit. 1 minute you're here, next minute you're there. It's like magic. And I'd laugh and I'd think I was so cute. I am dying of alcoholism and I don't even know it. I look back and how did you not see? No, I didn't. I truly didn't. So arrests, blackouts, wedding night, none of that did it for me. You know what did it for me? You. You did it for me. When I was finally sentenced to AA after my 5th arrest, and I sat in those stupid meetings for 5 months on a 6-month court card because I was not an alcoholic. And I'm doing everything an untreated alcoholic does. Drinking and driving on a suspended license, seeing no problem with any of this. But I saw you. And I saw your lives changing. I'd see people crawl in the room so broken and so sick. In a couple weeks, their health is getting better. They get roses back in their cheeks, and they've got a couple of friends, and they get a little job. And pretty soon, they get a God in their life. I see their lives changing, and my life isn't. My life isn't changing at all because I'm doing everything an untreated alcoholic does. So I was in Southern California after the divorce because, of course, he was my problem and drinking too much of my vodka. So he had to go. He's still here in Tampa. This is the 3rd time I've lived in Tampa. And got the ex-husband here. Hey, you got to leave him somewhere. Tampa's as good a place as any. So I left him here in December of 1989. My career's still going good. I'm out in Southern California, and drinking really took off. Because, see, I didn't have that alcoholic husband to set a good example for. I didn't have to hide my vodka in shoe boxes in the bedroom. And then fill my glass up with Coke and ice, go in the bedroom, fill the other half up with vodka, and then walk out there and act like I was a normal drinker after having filled my glass up with vodka from the shoebox. I did not see a problem with this. Oh, my God. I look back now and it's like, oh, Karen. This is why I will probably not take a drink today. So, in fact, just the night before my 5th anniversary, I'm up in San Francisco, and I had a drunk dream. And there are people who will tell you that drunk dreams are a slippery slope. I don't agree. I think drunk dreams are great. Because, first of all, normal people don't have drunk dreams. They just don't, ever. And what a gift for God to show me in my sleep what a disaster picking up drink would be. And in this dream, not only is it just pitiful, but in my dream, I said to myself, well, I'm not going to tell anybody because that's who I am. I'm a liar. I keep secrets, and I will die out there if I lie and keep those secrets. And in my dream, I'm already making up how I'm going to rationalize this behavior. But the beauty is I wake up in this cold sweat and and to realize I didn't do it. Oh my, what a gift. I got to experience it without doing it. So that's the last one I remember. But boy, I remember it vividly, and I wouldn't change that for anything in the world. Just that knowledge of, I didn't do it. So, good chance I'm not going to do it today either because of all of you. I've got all of you. And I wouldn't trade you for anything in the world. Not for anything. So many gifts of Alcoholics Anonymous. My goodness. So I'm out in Southern California after the divorce. My drinking took off like a shot because I didn't have to set a good example. And I decided, nobody told me I had to. I decided I was going to go a week without drinking just to prove to myself that I did not have a problem. Because remember, it was the ice cubes that kept me from being an alcoholic. And it tells me right on page 44 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. First paragraph of We Agnostics tells me exactly who and what an alcoholic is. Not that having read that would have changed one thing, because I needed to go through everything I went through to get here and to find you. But page 44 says, if, Bill is so gentle. I love how he writes this, but he knows my heart so, so deeply. So he says, if, when you honestly want to quit and find you cannot quit entirely, or, little door open, or if, once you start, you cannot control the amount you take, I love this, you're probably an alcoholic. Probably. Check, check. But that's the beauty. That Bill is so gentle, and he knows he can't tell me anything. Now, he could have said, if you do this or you do that, then you are worthless, you're a drunk, you're no good, and unless you do this, this, and this perfectly, you're out of here. No, he didn't say that. Not even close. It's if or if, you're probably. And even today, you can't tell me anything. But I trust my eyes. I trust what I see. And I see all of us here together, just buying a little more insurance for one more day of this gift. I see that. I believe it. I see Danny celebrating 3 years without a drink or a drug. That's a long time between drinks. That proves to me this thing works. And the Zoom babies. Danny's a Zoom baby. And got sober and is celebrating 3 years. Wow. That's pretty good stuff. So I'm in my experiment. I'm going to go a week without drinking to prove to myself. I got to day 6. Close enough. See, I didn't know what an alcoholic was. I didn't know that when I honestly wanted to quit, I could not quit. I couldn't go 7 days. I didn't know that. And then all those times I stopped after work, and I was just going to have one, and ended up closing the place. Last call, lights flashing. Okay, one more, please. I'll get it a to-go cup. I didn't know that once I started, I could not control the amount I took. I thought I had just changed my mind because I didn't know what an alcoholic was. So here I am in Southern California, 6 days, no problem. And we are magnets for our people. Alcoholics, drug addicts, bad boys. Party at Karen's house. Come on down. Hello. I bought this big old 4-bedroom house with a pool to show my mother I was fine after the divorce. I'm living there alone, fooling myself that I was okay. So the career is still, okay, but the drinking is going to create problems. And, it didn't take long. But the thing, these people that I met, we didn't sit at the kitchen table drinking warm gin. We did things. We go deep sea fishing in Mexico. We do chili cook-off caravans throughout the Southwest. We did things. That's not what an alcoholic does. But finally, that fifth arrest. We'd been playing softball since about 10 in the morning. Now it's about 7 at night. Been drinking all day long, but it was just beer. And it was on an empty stomach. Now that doesn't matter one bit, right? Just means you're full drunk, and if you've got a full stomach, that's all. I did not know any of this. So I'm driving home. It's about dusk, and I knew that I could drive drunk better than most people could drive sober because I had so much practice. And this one was not my fault. I swear to you, it was not my fault. The old bat. She shouldn't have even been driving. How she still had her license, I'll never know. So I'm minding my own business, driving home, and it's about dusk, and she pulls out in front of me. So just to show her that she was the problem, I just nicked her on the fender. My disease had taken me to such heights of arrogance and depths of denial by that stage. I waited for the cops. Wiring, never be right. Why should my insurance rates go up? Because she's the problem. Whew. Facts that I would just make up and rationalize every behavior. And rationalize is just 2 words. Rational lies. And I can marry those 2 and run to the bank, cash the check, and spend the money. Whew. We're masters at it. We're absolute masters at it. So it didn't take those stupid cops long to figure out who the problem was. And once again, a woman of my stature, taken to jail, hands behind my back. I'm still wearing my cleats. They take your shoelaces in the Santa Ana jail. This is not Betty Ford, okay? And the judge gave me a choice. I could either do 6 weekends in jail or 6 months in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had to think about it. We are the only people I know. It talks about that in our literature. The only people I know who have to think. We have to make a choice between a slow, agonizing alcoholic death or the spiritual solution. We have to think about it. It's like, well, could I get a little more information? How slow? I mean, are we talking like, a timeline here? Agonizing. Could we define that? Is it like hurt really bad, but then it's over? I just need a little more information, please. That's us. That's us. Oh, it's amazing. Thank God I picked you. Thank God. And I had to go to those stupid meetings, and you guys would say stupid things like, it's the first drink that gets you drunk. And I'd say, then you don't drink like I do. Because it's 4 or 5 before I catch a buzz. Wusses. But you never drank warm gin. You say you're an alcoholic? What do you know? And, I always love the meetings, though. The quality of the laughter, men telling the truth. It was like, oh my goodness, this is so fresh. It's so fun. I love the meetings. I just hated all of you because you were so perky and happy and huggy, and I had problems, and you really didn't care. And of course, like I say, I'm still doing everything that an untreated alcoholic does. So another example, I love this example of untreated alcoholism. So I finally got sober, and I'm up in San Francisco. I got to live in San Francisco 10 years sober. What a gift. What a gift. And I'm coming back from Sausalito on a Friday afternoon back into the city, and traffic's always terrible going back into the city on a Friday. And you come through this little tunnel. It's called Waldo Tunnel. And you come through, and it's almost like a little on-ramp into the Golden Gate Bridge. And there's really no shoulder, on the side. And I'm in the left lane, and we're just creeping along. And I can see the end of the tunnel, and there's a car that's disabled on the side. And so you see the hood up, but there's no shoulder. So he's only about this far off the road. And we're creeping, and I see the car in front of me get next to this car, and I see them do one of those and double take, and thinking, what in the world? And so I get up alongside this car, and I get about 12 inches away from the car, and I look over. Here it is, hood up, car overheating, Friday afternoon, right? Oh, God, had some brewskis. There's a guy standing there, white T-shirt, jeans, and those hospital slippers, the rubber soles with the white tops. And so you can imagine the quality of the bar he'd been drinking in, right? And he is there, car overheating, with his penis in his hand, peeing on his engine, right? One of these real fade back and forth. You know how we are when we're just not quite that steady, peeing on his engine. And I look over and I thought, well, I haven't seen one of those in a while. And my second thought was, I'll bet this is alcohol related, right? Friday afternoon, you've had brewskis, the car overheats, I'll piss on it. And that made perfect sense to me. Perfect sense. And that's why I need you guys. Because it makes sense to you too. You get me, right? I can tell that same story out there. And people would be backing away in horror, like, oh, he touched his penis. Yeah, it made perfect sense. That's why I need you. I need you to get me. And nobody else gets us like we do. Nobody else. I don't care how much they love us. I don't care how great the church is. I mean, and I'm not anti-church at all, but how religious and spiritual, and try and explain to a non-alcoholic pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. You can't. You can't explain this disease unless you have it. The first time I read in chapter 3, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, I knew exactly what it meant. It's like, oh, that's what that is. Oh, my phenomenon of craving. Try and explain that one. So at State Line, at the convention I just got back from, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. It's an acronym for PAID. And we paid the price to get here through pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. Good stuff. And I never want to forget, ever, because I do have a brain that will always tell me, oh, Karen, you weren't that bad. I remember I was speaking at a little small women's meeting up in San Francisco years ago. And at the end, this gal came up and she said, oh, don't worry, Karen. I told that newcomer, we're not all that bad. I was offended. Excuse me? And my head says, you weren't that bad. Now, I had just told my story, and I'm scaring newcomers. But my head will say, you weren't that bad. Oh, my God. This is the insanity that I get to just deny. Now, the denial in my life is for the insanity that I've got to beat all the time, because this head will always lie to me. So today I have a whole new set of facts, thanks to you, my higher power, my sponsor, this design for living that I get to share with all of you. So the new facts, I know I'm powerless, and you got to be careful. Initially, I really didn't think I was powerless. So I knew my life was unmanageable. Oh, I had created havoc. It was a mess. But I still thought I could get it back in control. I just need to dial that drink thing back a little bit. Now I know I'm powerless. But with a little time, I start to think, oh, but I can manage that part. It's okay, God. I got this part. It's good. I do this really. You can have that, but no. There's no walls. There's no compartments. It's all God. And the unmanageability without God is a disaster. And it's not that I can't get my way. We're smart women and men. If there's something we really want, we can get it. But if it's not God's will for me, it's going to be a mess anyway. Clean up on aisle 2. Hello. Why would I do that to myself and to you? I'd much rather wait until God's, and I know, right? There's no one in my life right now. That's fine. And if God wanted me to have someone in my life, I would have to trip over him to miss him. I don't have to look. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to go online. I don't have to. I just have to be in God's will. And when sponsees say, well, if God wants me to have a man, and I go, or not, I got to be fine either way because I got God, I got you, and I've got sponsees, and I've got a family like I've never had in my life. So, but I've got to participate in this thing, right? This is not osmosis. I can't just pray, pray, pray and think God's going to do it. Because, without God, I can't. Without me, God won't. I got to participate. I can't just say, oh, God, I don't want to steal. I don't want to steal. Please, 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 I don't. But I walk in the department store and pick up that lipstick and drop it in my pocket. God's not going to take it out. I must participate and sometimes not participate in character defects. It's a program of subtraction. It's unthinking, unlearning, undoing so much that I thought was truth that just isn't. And be willing to look at things in a whole different way all the time because the character defects morph and come in all different ways. And in order for me to stay even close to you and God, I just have to stay willing and open and subtract any new thought that I get. Because if I get a totally original thought, it's like, oh, I call somebody. It's like, I don't know where that came from. So real quick, it talks about, and I forget, but anyway, it talks about how, why can't we just take this directly to God and just, why do I have to tell my sponsor? And it just, well, it said we can, but it has a real danger to it. If we think God is talking directly to us, there's a lot of rational lies going on with that. When I think, and it's really my will and not God's will that I'm hearing. So I was about 3 years sober. I'm in Southern California still, and I was in a relationship. He had 4 years, but a bad relationship, and I knew that once he realized how much I loved him, and if I just moved him in, we'd be fine. I just needed to give him a home because he was living out, other than the fact that he was living in his truck, he was perfect. He was absolutely perfect. So I'm looking for a little house in San Clemente. And the realtor had given me lockbox numbers, and so I was looking at this little bungalow. It was so cute. And the lockbox was MAC 123. Well, his name is Mac, MAC. I knew that this was the house that would solve everything. I thought God was talking to me through a lockbox. And I'm going to make life decisions based on a lockbox. See, that's why I can't know. No, if I think God's talking to me directly through any device, I got to call somebody. I'm not wired right. And that's okay. Being an alcoholic's no big deal. Being a drunken 42-year-old woman, that was a big deal. So I'm finally, I know I can't trust my head, and that's a fact that I know today that I did not know when I was making up my own facts. Another fact, I know that I have got a disease that is stronger than a mother's love for her children. Never want to forget that. I still go into the women's jails. Been doing that for 30 years. And in Southern California, San Francisco, Las Vegas, here. My favorite part? They let me out. It's my favorite. But these women, most of them have children. And you think they chose to miss birthdays and graduations and Mother's Day and Christmas. This was not. The disease will take us and when I always ask, so who's getting out and what are you going to do different this time? And they'll say things like, well, I'll go back to church or, I'm going to do it for my kids. And it's like, couldn't do it for your kids before. What makes you think it's going to be different? So come to us, right? Then go to your kids. Because it has to be. You have to do it for you. There's no other way this works. Me and God. Me and God. And then everything else falls into place. Everything else. So, another fact that I live my life by today. Some days just being sober has to be enough. It's not all hats and horns. It's not all unicorns and rainbows. This has been this probably been the toughest year of my sobriety. But again, was I going to trade anything for all of you? No. not for a drink or a drug. Absolutely not. And so after I got sober, we've got about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I finally got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had to live in the third step. First of all, I mean, I surrendered totally at a Kings hockey game in Los Angeles when I knew that I'd had 2 big hockey beers and I got no relief at all. And I knew exactly what you meant in chapter 3 when you talked about the great obsession of every alcoholic is to control and enjoy his drinking. Because on Super Bowl Sunday, the day before, I still didn't quite get that first drink will get you drunk thing, and I'm off to the races and so ended up on somebody's couch. And then the next day, we all go to caravan up to the hockey game, and 2 big beers. I got no relief at all. So I knew what you meant by controlling and enjoying. Because on Super Bowl Sunday, when I enjoyed it, I couldn't control it. Hockey game, I controlled it, couldn't enjoy it. So I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous the very next night for the first time as a true member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I asked God for help. No negotiating, no bargaining, no quid pro quo. I read that step and I believed it to my toes. And I just asked God for help. And I experienced God in that room. But when I really experienced God was when I went home from that meeting and that half-gallon jug of vodka still up in the cupboard. And how many nights I'd promised myself I wasn't going to drink tonight. I'm not going to drink tonight. Before I knew it, I'm standing in front of the refrigerator with a glass of ice full of vodka. Tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow never came until that night. I didn't have to open that cupboard. For the first time ever, I didn't open the cupboard. I knew that was God. I knew that was step 2. The hope the hope I got from not opening that cupboard, the hope that God showed me was my future if I just stayed close to God and performed his work well. It doesn't say do his job, performed God's work well. So the demonstration of God's power, omnipotence, and love on the very night I got sober was such a gift, such a gift. And then I had to live in the third step because in my first 9 months, I lost everything, because I think God had to show me that there was nothing that a drink or drug was going to fix, bring back, or make better. First of all, I lost that big 6-figure career. And for the first time in my life, nobody did it to me, ever. I would have found victims everywhere. Not anymore. I knew it was my performance, my client work. I lost my 3 largest clients within 5 business days. So I absolutely knew this drink or drug was not going to fix that or make it better because it was me who did it, nobody else. I lost that big house. Orange County went bankrupt. Everybody was losing their houses, throwing their keys in the mailbox and walking out. So a drink or drug was not going to fix that or make anything better. I had my heart broken. I got into a relationship way too early, but I think he was in my life for a reason. And the reason was, can I take 3 more minutes? Okay. The reason was I did have to change my sobriety date. I didn't know pot counted. Nobody told me that. And I threw it away myself. Nobody told me I had to, but it just didn't feel right. And so I threw it away. And in about 60 days, a guy came back from Las Vegas. I'm in a new meeting, and he shared that he lost 6 years of sobriety because he smoked a joint in Las Vegas. And I'm going, you mean that counts? It counts, okay? So I had to change my sobriety date, and I'm whining to my boyfriend. And he said something that absolutely defined my sobriety. He said, Karen, we have the rest of our lives to take chips. We only have today to be honest. And today, if you say, does this make my butt look big? And it does. I can't say no. I can say, well, I've seen you wear things I like better. Because lies are not color-coded. There's no such thing as a white lie. They're not color. They're all lies. And I can't do them anymore. And thank God that Frankie was in my life. But he broke up with me on the day I lost my career. You could have timed it a little better. The drink or a drug wasn't going to bring him back. He was sober. I had a cancer scare. I was robbed. All in the first 7-8 months of my sobriety. A drink or a drug wouldn't have fixed or made any of that better. I had to rely on you and my God and this design for living that I wouldn't trade for anything. I'm so glad I'm here. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Glenn.